Hello, and welcome to yet another interview in the series Iowa Prison Perspectives. My name is Sue Hutchins, and as you know, I am with Iowa Cure, I am with Iowa Justice Action Network, and I am the founder of Living Beyond the Bars of Iowa. Today, we're going to be talking with a family member who has a loved one who is incarcerated. And my belief is that the public, people like yourselves, are very unaware of the effect that incarceration has on family members and other people who care about someone who's incarcerated. That particular population is pretty much left out of any news coverage, of any support, and of any help of any kind or even understanding, oftentimes blamed for what someone does that lands that person in a prison system or in the juvenile or the adult prison system. My belief is that that is very, very unfair, and that the communication around that particular area is just very lacking. So, one of the goals of these series is to bring to you information about what it is actually like to have someone that you love be incarcerated. This particular family has endured a life sentence in Iowa, which means that the person that is incarcerated got life without the possibility of parole. In Iowa, what that actually turns out to be is death by incarceration, because Iowa does not recognize the commutation process as being something that the governors are interested in doing. We have not had anybody commuted from a Class A felony in 35 years. We did have one person commuted in 35 years, which means that a lot of the people who are doing life in Iowa have been in for 30, 40, 50 years of their lives for an act that was committed at the time. Oftentimes, the act was committed when they were young, like 19, 20-year olds. I really want the public, people like yourselves, to understand that the families are often very, very victimized and treated, ignored, basically ignored by the system and by our society when someone that they love is incarcerated. And so that is the purpose of interviewing loved ones of people who are in Iowa prisons. So with that, I will turn it over to my friend and let her tell you what it has been like for her family to have a person that they love incarcerated here in Iowa.
Hi, my name is Nancy, and I'd like to share with you today just a few highlights, because what we're talking about is over a 26-year period currently. Um, when they gave my son life, they gave his family life. Um, and you might say, well, how is that? Well, um, there's a lot of different things. Um, I think it has had an emotional effect on our family, even though we do get a tremendous amount of support. I know that there are families, um, once the person is incarcerated, they never get a visit, they never get to see their loved one again. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One, um, the loved one said, okay, I'm here. It hurts too much to visit, and I can't go through that. We visit on a weekly basis because we want to. There's a lot of people that know me and know my family in this town um, that have no idea that my son is incarcerated um, or has a life sentence. And I choose not to tell those people because I do believe that they would be, some of them, judgmental, also have never walked a mile in my shoes. They don't know, they can't feel what we go through. Um, there is hidden expenses that we have chose to support my son for the simple fact that they make nothing when they go in. There's many jobs that are not available until they reach a certain level. And even when they reach a certain level, there's not enough jobs for those people. Um, they may make a whopping, and correct me if I'm wrong, 30 cents a day. And when you do that times even 30, which they don't work 30 uh, the whole month, um, they make practically nothing. However, if they need or want, and health wise, it would be advisable for a decent pair of sneakers or boots or warmer clothing than the state provides, then they would not be able to afford them because the cost of their sneakers, if they buy themselves or their clothing, is the same prices that we pay out here. So you're talking about a $65 pair of sneakers when you make less than $6 a month. And then there's those who are fined, they have a restitution that they have to pay. So there's a certain percentage of that $6 restitution comes out of their paycheck before they actually get any kind of spending money. Um, they either choose to eat what the state provides, or they do have commissary, but they have to have the funds to buy them, and they're no cheaper than what you're getting outside at the grocery store. So, anyway, which does leave, I shouldn't say a burden, because it's a choice whether family members will send in money or not. And for the last 26 years, we have chose every month to send my son money, even though he has been, if you want to call it, gainfully employed. Um, he learned to trade just because he was able to do that at the time, woodworking. And we chose to sell some of his products, and he's done some beautiful woodworking. Actually, if you see the clock on the fireplace, that is one of his pieces. Um, anyway, so not everybody chooses or is able to do those kind of things. Now, the other thing is that if you want your loved one to call home, there's an expense. And I'm trying to think of what Sue and I talked about and the cost prior to doing this. But it's several $100s a month if the loved one wanted to call on a daily basis for 20 minutes. Now, if they don't spend 20 minutes on the phone or call every day, then um, it's it's less. I want to say a little less because it's going to still cost that inmate about $100 a month to communicate with their loved ones, which a lot of individuals, a lot of families can't afford to supply. Um, but I do know that what we have gone through, um, different transitions, adjustments, um, the wanting to know that my son is safe and okay. He agrees to call me at least once a week. So say, hey, mom, I'm okay. I'm feeling okay. That's important to us, and I'm sure it is important to a lot of families that can't afford to send in that money. Um, I'll tell you a little story, and it's not a story, it's a reality. There's two of them that I can think about as far as what we've gone through as a family. In the beginning, when my son was um, in um, prison, no, he wasn't quite in prison yet. I got stopped after 20 years with a speeding ticket. I think it was awfully funny. The speeding ticket was within the neighborhood of where I worked. Okay, coincidence. Then my daughter, they looked up a warrant for her arrest that was over 2 years old for a pot charge and arrested her 5 days before um, Christmas. We went to bail her out. We were told we couldn't bail her out because it was a Sunday and we wouldn't be able to have the money in cash, but we happened to have it and we did bail her out and she made court and it got cleared up. But it was a charge that was well over 2 years old. Um, is this harassment or is this just coincidence? Then 16 years later, my granddaughter was, when my son was incarcerated, was 6 months old. Um, and she was 16, a junior in high school. She walked into her law class, and the subject and lecture was by two police officers here in town, um, and they were discussing my son's case. And they gave names, they gave locations. It was undeniable, and she came home crying, thinking that we had given her false information about um, my son and the truth about his case for 16 years. Um, it's devastating. That's the only way I can describe it, is devastating. The fees. We go once a week to visit him. He looks forward to that. We look forward to it. I get to see him. My my girlfriend at one time said, "I don't know how you can go that often." And I said, "If I want to see my son, which most families get to see their kids um, once a week, twice a week, they get to pick up the phone and just simply call them on their cell phone, which doesn't cost them any more or any less um, than anybody else. We have to pay much more for that." Um, I could go on and on and on. How I describe what has happened to us, though, I tell people what we've had experienced, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. It is something that, unless you've walked a mile in the family's shoes, um, you can even imagine what goes on. And even just fear for the safety of. Now, my son has gotten his high school diploma. No, he had his high school diploma. Excuse me. They tried to make him go for his high school diploma after he was there, even though he had graduated from high school. He got his 2 year degree. He's working on his 4 year degree and a paralegal degree. He also has learned how to not only to do beautiful woodworking, um, but he also has done, um, he converts books into Braille. So he's learning astronomical trade that's very useful. He keeps himself very busy. He's on the council and does a lot of good work for inmates that don't have the opportunities he has had as having his family support him. Um, if you want to know more, if you want to know things specifically, I would be happy to talk to you, and I'm sure Sue would be happy to answer your questions. But like I said, I could go on and on and on. 26 years it's very difficult to cover everything that a family experiences, even to the point of going to visit and being told that you can't visit because either they're locked down or your clothes aren't appropriate, and you've traveled um, hours. Some of these people have traveled hours in inclement weather to see their loved ones, and they're told that they're turned away for one reason or another. Um, anyway, that's as much as I can say right now.
Could you talk for just a minute about what it is like in the visiting room now? What's happened as far as visiting is concerned, and what a family member or a loved one who's going to visit experiences as far as even getting into the visiting room?
Okay, I'd be happy to. Um, I guess we just take some of this for granted, not that, but there is a certain dress code. Okay. And then what we have to do is we have to take our shoes off. They have to be x-rayed. And then we cannot bring our coats in, including in wintertime. Um, and sometimes winter and summer, it can be either quite cold or uh, difficult. You have to go from the car to have a coat, and then you have to leave the coat outside of where you get checked in, which, or a sweater or a jacket with pockets is not allowed. So you have to specifically decide on what you're dressing. Like I told my daughter recently, because she was turned away because of a particular coat. Um, I wear the same thing pretty much every time I go to the visiting, for the, for the simple fact I know it works.
Okay,
I know
yeah.
I'm going to be okay. Okay, and then you're patted down, and uh, my personal opinion is pat down is a joke. If you were going to want to hide something, you can get away with it. Okay. Anyway, but they blame anything and everything that's coming in to the prison on the people that are coming through to visit. Um,
And is it fair to say that as far as drugs coming into the institutions, that the pat downs and the change in the visiting room has not lowered the amount of drugs in the prison?
Absolutely not. Okay, absolutely not.
It's not fair to say that, or it
No,
hasn't lowered it?
it hasn't lowered it.
Okay.
There is the drug problem and any other um, things that are not allowed in there um, are still getting in. Um, then we go to the visiting room and we have a table and four chairs, um, which I believe probably are pretty similar that when they started as they are now, except that they have less chairs, less visitors. Um, and then what we used to have was we could come and visit. We didn't have to absolutely schedule our visit. We knew there were certain days, but we could come pretty much at any time. Now we have to schedule them. And if I've scheduled it and my daughter has scheduled it to come the same time, we have to sign up at the same time. We have to kind of coordinate. Perfect example. She wanted to come this Saturday. We're already signed up. She can't sign up for that time. Um, it's 2 hours instead of 4 hours.
Mhm.
It is, I'm not sure exactly whether they allow 6 people in, but we used to be able to visit with 6 people and our inmate. Now they only allow 4 chairs. Um, you can go through the counselor to get a special visit or special amount of people if they're coming from a distance. But it's a lot more time consuming. And there are only 2 days that we are able to visit, where we used to visit, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, 4. Yes, there's 2 other days that you can visit, but it has to be Zoom. Now, through Zoom, what I have tried to do is sometimes sign up for Zoom, and they're not available. Yet you walk in the visiting room, and that's where they hold the Zoom meetings at the same time, and there are empty um, computers. So not all of them are being used, which is interesting. It used to be that you would get a snack, or you could buy your inmate a sandwich, and at least it felt like you could have a lunch with him. They've taken the vending machines out. The guys are not allowed to go to the pop machines with you. I don't get it. We have to go and buy the pop that they want, and then bring it to the table. Um, there are no snacks. The younger kids, that would occupy their um, a little bit of their time. Yes, they have some games and this and that, but in 2 hours we don't usually play games any longer as a family, because the things we want to talk about and catch up on, um, it takes up 2 hours. Where when we had 4 hours to visit, um, we at least had some time to play cards, some games, to laugh, to tease each other. We don't take the time on a 2-hour visit, which is kind of a shame. Um, Trying to think about what others
Bathroom,
things have
if you
changed.
would talk about
Oh
the
yeah,
bathroom situation.
thank you. Now we cannot use the public restroom that they have available in the visiting room. We have to go outside to the guard where we checked in to go to the bathroom. And then we have to go through the same procedure that we had, I believe, taking your shoes off, getting them
Mhm.
x rayed, being patted down, so we can go back in and visit in the same amount of time. And we have to take that time out with our loved one to go to the restroom. If you have a small child, you have to do the same thing. Small children, at least you used to buy them treats, and that would keep them somewhat occupied. Um, you don't see as many small children visiting with their loved ones as there used to be, because they don't have things to do, things to occupy themselves. Um, it's it's not like it used to be, and not as many people visit.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nancy. We really appreciate the time and also appreciate the difficulty that you have had in having your son incarcerated for all this time. Um, in all fairness, the Zoom through Emilio, that's the name of the app that Zoom comes through, and that's the name of the app that people in Iowa need to register for visits and for Zoom calls. That app, the Zoom calls are free, so people can have contact with loved ones and people on Zoom without having to pay. So that's one very nice thing that the Department of Corrections has provided. And they started that during COVID when they cut visits, and they have not discontinued that. So up to this point, there's no charge for that.
There
And,
is one thing.
and people are grateful for that, but.
There is one thing that I would like to add: the correspondence. If we were on to just send my son pictures, or send my son writing, or let him know what was going on in the family, type things. And he also is extremely interested in law. So we would want to send him resources so that he could research different things. Um, we would put it in an envelope, mail it it would be there in a day or two. Now we have to mail it to Las Vegas, and then mail it, and then they, I don't know what they do with it, scan it or whatever, and then send it to him. It takes 3 weeks for him to get anything written and pictures. Now, I do send him some pictures, and we have to pay for them and I forgot what the program is called, um, and that gets to him faster. And what I have to do is I have to send him through this company, and if I spend I think it's like $5, I can send him 4 or 5 pictures. But we don't bother to even write or send him anything written any longer, unless it's absolutely necessary. And what is interesting about that process is that we had a previous lawyer that wanted to keep in touch with my son and send him some stuff, and it was sent back. Now, legal mail is supposed to go directly to the prison, to the inmate, and that didn't always happen.
Yeah, the name of the company that the Department of Corrections has contracted with for mail is called Pigeonly. And the reason that that was first started was because of drugs. There were people that, according to the Department of Corrections, there were, and it's true, that there were loved ones and people out here that were sending mail into the people who are incarcerated that had been laced with some drugs. And so in order to eliminate that problem from happening, and the belief at that time was that that would really cut back on the amount of drugs getting into the prisons. In order to eliminate that, they contracted with this company that every prison in Iowa, the mail goes to Las Vegas and then is copied and goes to the inmate. And like Nancy said earlier, the amount of drugs getting into the prison has not really been significantly reduced because of the changes that have been made, which leads us to believe that the majority of drugs that are coming in through people who have direct contact from the outside, whether it's truck deliveries or possibly people who work in the prison, but somehow the drugs are still getting in and it's not coming directly from families like was previously presented. So once again, thank you very much, Nancy, and we really appreciate your time and energy and the emotional toll that this has cost. We're grateful that you were willing to give us that information. Let me say again that if you want to reach us, the Gmail is Iowa Prison Perspectives @gmail.com. My name is Sue Hutchins. We could also be seen on not only this YouTube video, but also on Iowa Justice Action Network website, on Living Beyond the Bars website, and on Iowa Cure website. So please contact us if you have any interest in these subjects, whether you want more information, if you have comments, if you have people that you think should be interviewed, if you have opposing opinions about what we're saying here. Our goal is to get accurate information out to the public and to keep the communication going. So thank you once again for your time. And I certainly hope that you will keep watching and stay in contact. Thank you again, and bye for now.